This identification is Jane Addams of VIP, a very important person in U.S. history and even Chicago history. She's also known as the founder of the social work profession. She was born in 1860 and died in 1935 and was part of this kind of big growth in professions in the United States. She was born in Illinois, Cedarville. She had eight siblings. Her father was well off financially, which really allowed her to go. It's important for the fact that it allowed her to go into um, putting quite a bit of investment into helping people in Chicago in what was called settlement houses. So she grew up. She was in Illinois. She had and physical problems certainly affected who how she developed and who she became. She had curvature of the spine and many health problems. Um, and also because of her health problems, she stayed home a lot and she read books. And she was influenced a lot by the books that she read. But also, you could say influenced by them, or maybe she chose the books because they were the kind of books that um, reflected how she believed in things. So whichever way, whatever you believe, the books were very important to her growing up. Her Jane Addams' favorite author was the famous Charles Dickens from England, who was a very popular writer. Obviously before Addams' time, but he was a very popular writer in England and then all over the world and the United States. He wrote famous books like David Copperfield and A Christmas Carol, and certainly in many ways reflected the ideas that later would become part of her goals in life. There's a picture of Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens' father actually died in a debtor's prison um, and went to prison for owing money in England, and certainly affected Dickens' viewpoint. Um, it's not like you could get out of bankruptcy or just lose your property. In those days, you went to jail in England for owing money. So his father died in a prison for that. So Dickens himself became a writer. I go into Dickens a little bit because I think it's really in many ways related to Jane Addams' belief system. And Dickens, many of you may have read or seen the movie Christmas Carol. And so the book really was a story. It became one of the most popular books in the world. It was a story about a rich, mean old man who gave nothing to charity and was cruel to the people around him and worked people many hours. That was Scrooge. So then the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future visited him, and he learned the error of his ways. And eventually, if you ever see the movie, he eventually learned the error of his ways and helped his dying nephew to get surgery and became a great person in the end. That's typical Dickens. It became a Muppet movie in the United States later. It's been probably 40 movies made over this Christmas Carol. And there you see now, Scrooge's nephew finally cured when Scrooge gave him the money for the operation. So that was, many of his books, but they were really well written and made into many good movies too. Okay, so whether or not Jane Addams was influenced by it or just loved that, we don't know. But when she grew up, she started a settlement house in Chicago called Hull House, which was dedicated to helping um, the poor people in Chicago um, many new immigrants and many people who were struggling in the very quickly growing cities like Chicago, um, immigrants from all over the world, and she started this Hull House for them. So there you go, Hull House, settlement house in Chicago, which was a place for poor families and people to visit, sometimes to sleep at and live at, and other times just to visit for classes. It was all races were and ethnic groups were invited in her ads, and they came uh, and were treated to free school and playgrounds and libraries. So you see the children from neighborhoods coming to Hull House for the free school and the free books, free lunches. Um, so it became a bigger and bigger and bigger enterprise. And Jane Addams' dream was to create this haven for people in the growing and overcrowded cities around 1900. So here she's meeting with other people, professionals, and she really was teaching them and having statistics kept to make it a profession to help people in need. And really, you got the word coin called social work, and you have these people who became social workers and eventually licensed. And she they kept statistics on how to fight poverty. So I think you could say Anne Frank was not Anne Frank, and Jane Addams was a pragmatist, like the book mentions, and a practical, not just wanting the world to be a better place, but using practical methods to achieve that goal. Here she is reading to children, reading and free classes was a part of Hull House. Training on cooking, milk, food preparation, safety, all kinds of things were taught, and food was given to people who had come to Hull House. Mostly women, but some men who were going to become social workers um, would teach art as a form of therapy and as a form of encouragement and a positive attitude towards life. Um, so and to occupy time, and so art was taught to children through these settlement houses. And Jane Addams' settlement house was the one in Chicago, but there were other settlement houses run by other people in other cities. But Jane Addams inspired all the settlement houses. She basically had an exemplary type of place. Children playing, children doing all kinds of activities. And then there was some sleeping quarters too for children. There were outdoor activities also. So Jane Addams created this atmosphere here. They seem to be working on outdoor stuff. Okay. Large groups at Hull House. So Jane Addams then started this settlement house called Hull House. She started the profession of social work and helped develop training for social workers, and really through a pragmatic causes helped people in the cities. And really, she believed from a women's rights position, her type of women's rights was making the world a better place, and how and she wrote of this. and with the goal of making the world a better place. And she achieved her goals through starting Hull House. And he also was a big advocate for peace. He was against war. And eventually, at an older age, she was against World War I and all war and any kind of imperialism. And she won the Nobel Peace Prize. So that's the story of Jane Addams, the founder of the social work profession, 1860 to 1935.